Did you guys hear about this week? Pretty cool. Time's Person of the Year is not actually a person, it's many people who the magazine calls silence breakers.
They shared their stories of sexual harassment and sexual assault. Social media, of course, gave them a unified voice with the hashtag #MeToo, which is a movement started by activist Tarana Burke a decade ago.
I could never imagine this. I could never have envisioned something that would change the world. I was trying to change my community.
I thought, you know, if women could just come forward and say "me too," just two beautiful words that Tarana started, then we can really start to shape this and get an idea of the magnitude of this issue and of this problem.
That's actress Alyssa Milano, one of the biggest proponents of the Me Too movement. Burke says, by the way, now the work really begins. And so it does. Let's bring in attorney Jennifer Cannon-Unioni and Katie Hall from the Katie Hall Foundation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, ladies. You know, most people understand the big sexual harassment do's and no-nos, but there are some things we might all get tripped up on every day, and that's why we wanted to bring you guys back here, you ladies back here, to continue this conversation. So how about we go through some of the questions that people can also join in at home. First of all, the first question is, what behavior could be seen as sexual harassment in the workplace?
And we put some
possible answers.
Yeah, hugging, touching on the back, complimenting your dress or the way you look, or any of the above.
Let's start with Jennifer now. Like, what do you think could be perceived as this?
Sure. So ding, 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 ding. It's D.
D.
Because, first of all, sexual harassment here in Washington State, there's two types. There's quid pro quo, which is what we kind of typically think of as some sort of employment benefit contingent on a sexual favor being met. But then there's this hostile environment and what contributes to a hostile environment. So, and it needs to be frequent or pervasive. So it could be what we kind of typically think of, which is inappropriate sexual jokes or inappropriate sexual materials or unwanted advances that are frequent, but it can also be stuff that we don't think of as being harassing or even sexual. For example, you know, you look great today.
Thank you.
And I love your dress, and I love that color on you, Amity.
Yeah.
If it's unwelcome, also hugging. There's a Sixth Circuit just came out this year. It's a hugging case. A supervisor was a hugger, and he hugged the males, he hugged the females, but one female didn't want to be hugged, and the court said that unwelcome hugging can contribute to a hostile work environment. So, you know, it's good that we all just kind of reevaluate. I'm a hugger, I like to hug, but maybe my colleague doesn't like to be hugged, and that's okay.
So how do you handle that in the workplace? You do training with your company. How do you handle that? Because I'm a hugger. I'll hug you. I'll hug everybody.
I hugged you when we came in here today, so that means I could have been in court for that. And I was a big-time hugger when I was a manager over at the University of Phoenix in New York. And so to your point, it's very subjective, right? And we do a lot of role plays with organizations, and I just really believe that it's really great to be more on a proactive end of things with organizations and doing more of those role plays and those trainings continuously, because not only do you get the training aspect of it, but you also learn a lot about your coworkers and what their do's and their don'ts are as well.
I do want to move on to the next question, but before that, you know, a lot of people are saying, like, so what? I can't compliment you on your dress anymore. I can't say that you look good. What are you supposed to do when someone says that to you and you don't want them to say that to you? Do you say, whoa, 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 I don't want to be complimented today?
Yeah,
I mean,
how are you supposed
to respond to that?
You have the conversation. I believe you just truly have that conversation with that person, and you let them know. And sometimes it might be appropriate to have the conversation right then and there, but you might need to take a moment to figure out how you want to approach that person. And that's the scary part about sexual harassment in the workplace, is because it can be so subjective.
Well, and just to add really quickly to that too, you're making an uncomfortable situation more uncomfortable by saying, hey, can you not hug me? Or so I think some people feel awkward about kind of saying stuff, but it is important to be sensitive to that.
Wow. Okay, let's put up another question. Can a company be held liable for an employee's sexual harassment? Yes or no?
Yes, you can be held. An employer can be held. So if it's a supervisor, chances are, generally speaking, the employer is going to be held responsible. If it's an employee, then a lot depends on what did the employer what was the employer aware of, and whether or not, so did the employer know, or should the employer have known about that? And what kind of actions did the employer take? Because that could be a defense.
So what you're saying then in this is if somebody feels they're in this situation to begin documenting these things well, to prove that in that case, if you are taking someone to court, that's the only way you can prove this, correct? If the employer knows if that knowledge existed before?
Yeah, and so, yeah, to document that stuff, to then thoroughly investigate what happened, what the allegations are, and frankly, from a legal perspective, is if there is a complaint, and then it is the employer's responsibility to conduct a thorough and fair investigation. And if there's credible evidence that there was some sort of sexual harassment that occurred, then the accused should probably be terminated.
So when it comes to you, when you're dealing with companies, I mean, is this the type of thing you bring up to them and saying, this is why we need to be talking about it?
Absolutely. I'm happy that you hit on that, because this is the reason why it's so important for organizations to be on the front end and be proactive. And Jennifer and I, we have had a few conversations, and we even talked about in the state of Washington how those trainings are not mandatory here. And I've actually spoke with quite a bit of organizations since Sunday. They actually reached out. Swedish Medical Group reached out, Seattle Police Department, we talked, as well as who was the other one? Outgoing Mayor Suzette Cook, and we all talked about that this week. And one of the biggest things we heard is that a lot of the trainings are online now. Those are not engaging, and so people flip through those type of trainings, and so that's why it's very important to have that face-to-face type of training and be proactive, because it's very expensive when you get to Jennifer. It could be much less expensive when you're working with Katie Hall.
Very good point.
Yeah.
You don't want to get to me.
Right.
And but you're needed, and it's important that you're there. However, to be on the preventative side and to be proactive, that's why it's important to invest into those trainings on the front end.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop you right there, because you know what? I think that we only got through 2 questions. I think I'd like to continue this conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. We can do that on the other side of the
So
break.
we're going to go to a break right now. We're going to come back. We've got 2 or 3 more questions that we're going to ask these ladies. We'll be right back.